Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Matt Rudisell, and I'm your host for Collectibles Chat. Today, we're doing something a little bit special. It's something brand new on the channel, and it's called Expert Interviews. If you know some of my business channel stuff, you know I do expert interviews there as well. But this has got a little bit of a spin to it where we're talking to people in the hobby. And today, we're excited to have Jake Brewer with us. Hey, Jake, hope you're doing well.
Doing great, man. Happy to be here. I didn't know I was gonna get to be first. That's cool.
Well, there's actually been one more before this, and then I
Oh,
threw
second.
myself in, and we actually there's a lady that I interviewed for my Experts Game podcast who is starting to branch out into the hobby world. So that is there. But yeah, you're one of the first. And I guess congratulations on that. Excited. My story with Jake is that I met him through a show that he has put on. He's just started it, and will actually be I'll be at the second show as well, but it's called Legends Never Die, and it was put on at his church, and it was a great show. And I think Phil Ford was there to deliver his testimony and sign some things, but that's where I met Jake, and I know that he's really into vintage cards, which I'm into vintage cards. Probably not as big as Jake is, but he's going to tell you a little bit about that today as well. So, welcome to the podcast. I'm glad you're here. Just tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, sure. So my day job, my everyday job, I'm a full-time, I'm a pastor. Like you mentioned, I'm here at the church in Stanley, First Baptist Church of Stanley. And that's my main role, my main goal, to see the gospel go out and be furthered. But I've also always been a collector. Short version of that origin story. When I was 9 years old, my paternal grandmother was a big sports fan and collected cards,
Mm.
and she split her collection between me and my brother. He's 3 years younger than me, and I never stopped. I wasn't one of those that, got to high school and cars and girls and all that stuff. Like, I did those things too, but I never stopped with cards. And I've always been a collector. I was a basketball fan first, Tar Heel basketball fan, coming from my dad's side of the family there, and also liked baseball. And I collected mainly Tar Heel stuff, NBA stuff, and then I really got into the history of the game. I like history, and that's where I inevitably got into baseball Hall of Famers and vintage cards and pre-war cards. And about 5 years ago, I was like, I'm not a millionaire. I don't have all this money for my collection. What's a way I can get creative and further my collection? So I sell to collect, is a simple way to put it. I have an LLC, a side business to buy and sell cards, and my goal is just to earn a little extra spend money so I can buy more stuff for the hobby for myself. Which makes some decisions on what you keep and what you sell a little tough, being a collector at heart.
Man, that is awesome. I think we just went through the whole interview there in about 10 seconds.
Oh man, nailed it.
No, gosh, there's so much in that. I'm curious. I want to know, do you remember the very first card you ever pulled out of a pack? Or one of the first big cards that you ever had?
Yeah, so the first time I pulled a relic card as a kid, it was early 2000, probably been like '02, '03, '03, '04, Upper Deck Hard Court. It's a dual jersey card. I still have it. It was Stephon Marbury and Amari Stoudemire, dual jersey card.
That's cool.
Uh, and then I remember we had a hobby shop 30 minutes from me, a card shop across the mountain. I'm from Franklin, North Carolina originally, and a little card shop in Sylvan, North Carolina called Sports Collectibles. It's still there today. Same owner, same everything. Uh, would go over there and buy packs and boxes as a kid. And the first autograph I ever pulled was a Shane Battier. And now I don't know how savvy you are with like collegiate basketball stuff, but as a Tar Heel fan, pulling a Shane Battier, who was a Duke player, was terrible as a kid. But I still have it because it's my first autograph I ever pulled.
Man, that's pretty awesome. So I started collecting probably maybe 30 years before that. Not quite 30 years, 25 or so. I remember my first card that was significant of any amount. And I guess at the time I was still more baseball. I love baseball. Baseball is kind of my number one sport. But at the time I was growing up, I was playing basketball and baseball for the local Optimist Club, and it was probably after a practice. My dad took me to the little convenience store, and they had a pack of I think it was 78, 79 basketball, and the card that I pulled out was a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar card, and it said second All-Star, second team All-Star on it. And I've had that card multiple times. The one that I actually pulled was just destroyed. I mean, it was really played with or traded a bunch. I sold it at a show for like $3 or $4. I mean, so inexpensive. I then bought the card again in a graded format and unfortunately resold it again. And I'm on the hunt for somewhere around a grade 9, maybe a 10 if I can find it. Probably not going to find a 10 anywhere that I can afford, but probably an 8 or a 9. And of course, the sports card world, if you're wondering what we're talking about, all cards are that are graded are on a 10-point scale. So that's what I'm looking for. One of these days, I'll run across it. I've run across plenty recently, but they've either been in raw form and, you know, too much for what I want to pay for them versus the
Mhm.
grading and stuff like that. But I think it's really cool to have a story to kind of go along with everything that you do. And that's really, we're a lot alike in a lot of aspects. I love history. As a matter of fact, in my spare time, I'm the president of a local historical board. Oldest, well, you should know about it because it's down the road from you. Oldest house in Gaston County is located in Stanley or off of the Dallas Stanley Highway, the historic Hoyle homestead.
Yep.
And
Pass it all the time.
yeah, so we do a lot of exciting, well, not a lot, but we're starting to do a lot of exciting things out there because we have the facilities for it. Um, but I love history and I love how it connects to certain things. I even collect on the side these cards that are called pieces of the past. I don't know if
Hmm.
you've seen any of those, but I
Yep.
just really like them a lot. So that's exciting to hear all of that and to hear the stories that are kind of put in with different, aspects of our trading, our collecting career. And finally, what you said about I sell to collect, I think a lot of us probably do that. There are
Mhm.
probably a few in the industry that sell just to sell, just to make money, but most of us are collectors at heart. That's what we
Mhm.
it's what we enjoy the most. So that's kind of what got you into collecting. It was your grandmother, which I
Yeah.
find interesting and pretty awesome in that. We know that you're a pastor
Mhm.
at the church. What else do you do? Do you have any other occupations, jobs, things that you've enjoyed doing in the past? I know the pastoring is probably definitely full time.
Yeah, I am full time at the church. But before I was here, I've been here now, man, 6 years. I've been an ordained pastor for 2 years, but I've been full time at the church for six. Before that, I worked professionally in baseball for 7 years.
Okay.
Fun. I worked for the Gastonia Grizzlies, the Kannapolis Cannonballers, and some little team called the Savannah Bananas. Uh, I helped start that franchise.
Yeah, that's cool.
Um, and I'm still good friends with the owners, and I actually take my youth group down there every other year. We go and see the Bananas in Savannah and do the whole thing. But that was my dream. Growing up, I wanted to work in sports, and I got to live that for 7 years. Pretty cool.
That's pretty
Uh,
awesome. I remember seeing Jesse Cole and probably saw you too at some of the Grizzlies games. But even before that, I used to go all the time when it was the Rangers, the Gastonia Rangers. That was probably way before your time of jumping into that. But
Mhm.
it was kind of fun, and it was kind of exciting seeing what you guys did there with the Grizzlies before, before it went on to whatever. Speaking of, let's talk about this for a second. So, back in this might have been before you were born, 90 91 90.
91's the year I was born.
Okay. So, back in 90 91, there was a collection I just opened, and I'm looking over here on my side. I don't know if I've got any more, but it was a classic best minor league baseball. So I opened two boxes of those. What I was really looking for was the Mike Smith auto. They had some randomly inserted Mike Smith cards in there, and they were autoed. But what I found interesting is that there were a few players that played for the Gastonia Rangers.
Mm.
And at the time, on the card, on the front, it says Charlotte, and on the back, it says Gastonia Rangers.
Hmm.
And I thought that was the oddest thing. Now, I don't think I have any Grizzlies cards, but I do have a bunch of those Rangers cards and stuff. So, anyway, little side note there, but I thought that was pretty cool. So, how much time do you think you're able to spend on sports cards every week? Do you set aside a certain time, or does it vary?
So I have a 4-year-old son who
Mm,
will be 5 in August and a 1-year-old son who'll be 2 in October. So my card time is pretty much once the two of those jokers and my wife are asleep, and then I'm usually in my baseball card room at my house tinkering with stuff. And I get to do shows here and there.
hmm
It I'm glad that it's not my full-time gig because I couldn't do it right now, especially with what I feel like my family obligations are first. Uh, so there it's here and there on the weekends. You'll see me wandering some of the shows or set up occasionally. Matt and I were talking about, when's the next show you're setting up, that kind of thing before we came on. Uh, but most of mine is done in either in the middle of the night
hmm
or I do a lot of online selling in Facebook groups or from like texting people that I know through YouTube, Instagram, things like that. So mine kind of comes sporadically throughout the day. But to give you a more direct answer to your question, like how much time do I spend on the hobby in like a given week? Um, Probably like 5 to 10 hours, and that could fluctuate a little bit
Okay.
on either side of that. Um, but typical week, I look to do one sales post at least online and then funnel through the documentation of that, the deleting of the pictures, the packing of the packages, the shipping them out, all that.
Okay.
Um, since it's not my main gig, most of the time I get to do that at my own pace kind of thing.
What's that bat on the back of on the wall back there? Is that a special bat?
It is. It was actually my church knows me. That was gifted to me by the church and our other pastor when I was ordained.
Awesome.
Instead of giving me a plaque, they gave me an inscribed bat with my name and my ordination date and stuff on it. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. That is awesome. That is awesome. I could see a little part of it back there. So that's cool. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. You've been in the hobby for a good while. You put in so many hours per week doing that. What's the probably the biggest thing you've learned about the sports card hobby? And it could be either good or bad, but what do you think the biggest thing you've learned about the hobby is?
Well, I guess it would apply to both. I was going to say from a collector or from a dealer standpoint, but I think it applies to both sides. Is that, being in it for, man, 26 years, like a nonstop hobby, and just even when I wasn't doing it to sell, just like learning all of this information, that one, it is an extremely steep learning curve for people that jump in like when they're adults for the first time, like, oh, I want to get into the hobby. Like there is so much to know about how to buy, how to negotiate, what to look for, what's real, what's not, what should I collect, what I shouldn't, what is valuable, what isn't, what do you look for, how do you look stuff up? Like that is a huge learning curve. And then secondarily, on top of that, which may make it feel more challenging for someone new, is that it's never ending.
Mm,
Like I've been going 26 years and I'm still learning stuff all the time. And I'm pretty much going backwards in time. Like, do I know things about modern cards? Yes. Do I know things about modern sports? Yes. Can I look at it as a snap decision and say, that's Taco blue refractor number to 25, I don't have to look at it? No. But can I look at vintage cards in that way and be like, oh, that's the variation, or that's real, or that's not, just by simply holding it? Yes. There's so much information to know in the hobby, and it's a tough learning curve from both sides of that.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things for me I like about vintage is that there's, I'm talking about like real, my vintage, not your vintage, but your vintage is like what I collected in the 90s, from the 80s and 90s.
Hey,
Um,
vintage
but,
is
but I,
79 and back.
yeah, but I know what you collect as vintage, and I'm talking about in the 50s, 60s, 70s cards. Um, there's not a lot of variations there. There are some, but not like they are today. I mean, a few
Right.
years ago, Trevor Lawrence had two or three hundred variations of a certain card.
Yeah.
So back then we had saturation with the mass production in the 90s, the 80s and the 90s. And now we have mass production with, or saturation with, all these different variations and stuff. But the old vintage stuff is really cool. What I'm noticing, and I don't know, I'm sure you're catching it too, is some of the stuff in the 70s, 80s, that stuff's going up. It seems like it is just skyrocketing. For example, George Brett rookie card. I sold one probably early part of this year for like $50. And
Mm.
then at this last a couple of shows ago, I sold it for, I think I had 85 on it. I went to a show this past Friday night. The guy had 185 on the same card. I mean, those things are just skyrocketing. So that's pretty cool. Okay, let's go to what you particularly like. What's in your PC right now? Anything that you're chasing? Any particular collection that you enjoy?
I love this question because I love what I collect, but also I think every time I share this, people are like, well, what? Uh, all right. So I collect, these are the sets that I'm building. T206,
Mm,
33, 34, 38 Gaudy, 39 through 41 play ball, 48 through 55 Bowman, 52 through 55 Redman, 53 through 55 Johnston Cookies, 55 tops double headers, 51 through 79 tops. That's baseball.
mm,
Then basketball, well, and 62 post. Basketball, 61 Fleer, 69, 70 tops, 70, 71 tops, 70, 70, 72, 73, 74, and then 86, 87 Fleer. Those are sets. Then I do a rookie card, an autographed baseball, and a bobblehead of every baseball Hall of Famer, every major milestone club member. So like 500 homers, 3,000 hits, 3,000 Ks, perfect game pitchers, World Series Braves teams, and
mm.
anybody else I deem historically significant, like a Johnny Vandermeer who threw consecutive no hitters, and then every baseball Hall of Fame autograph, and then every Tar Heel basketball player that has made it to the pros, I have autographs of, and NBA autographs of a select list of like 50 or so that I want to get. And then I dabble in what I would call type collecting for vintage and pre-war stuff for just sets that I'd like to have one card of as a representation. So I cast a really, really big net for my collection. It's like 26,000 items on my spreadsheet, and I'm about 65% done with it.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Okay, so
that's a lot of
future
information.
question. I'm sure your wife is asking this as well. What are you going to do with all of these cards?
So
You don't have to answer.
hopefully,
You don't have to answer.
oh, okay.
No,
I
I'm
mean, I
just,
can, but
yeah, go ahead.
I hope that the boys or one of them inherits the
Mm,
kingdom, if you will. But if they don't, I'm extremely organized. Like the spreadsheet that I mentioned is real. It has every single card in it, what I need, what I want, what I paid for it, what it's worth. I update them with dates so often. There's master algorithms to tell you what it's worth, what I paid for it overall, et cetera, as an ongoing thing. And if something happened to me tomorrow, My wife knows the people to call to make that happen, to make it move if they needed it to move.
Yeah, that's what I've been working on lately too. Okay, T206. Do
Mhm.
you have the Ty Cobb?
I have one of the Ty Cobbs. I have the green background.
Oh, the red I have seen recently. Matter of fact, I've held it in my hand. Um, I would like to have this card, but
Mhm.
the guy's not ready to sell yet. As a matter of fact, he came into a show and he pulled it out of his pocket. And I mean, this guy is probably maybe in his 90s or so.
Oh,
This was a
wow.
card he had as a kid. Um,
Oh, that
Now,
is
I
so
mean,
cool.
I guess he was probably like a teenager or sometime when he got it or whatever, but it was probably passed down to him, in great shape. And he said, "What do you think it's worth? Maybe 500 bucks?" And I said, "No." I said, "It's probably worth $5,000." And I looked it up and it was around that price. I then saw him again at another show. He comes back to another show, two different counties, and came to my booth and he said he still had it. So he's got my information. So we'll see. We'll see. And then I'll send it over to your way. But
Yeah,
it's a
for
beautiful
sure.
card. And as a matter of fact, I think I saw one in Spartanburg the other night that had been graded. And I think it was a 2.5. I know it was. I
Okay.
remember it now. It was graded as a 2.5. It looked pretty good. I think the one that I saw, I figured it would get around a 2. Um, but I wasn't really thinking about, half grades and stuff. So it could go a little higher, but I think on his, he had 6,500 on the 2.5. So that is a beautiful card in itself. Um, Red Man. Red
Mhm.
Man cards are one of my favorites, especially if they've got the
Tab.
perforated tab on there. Um, I am in the on the search for a guy named Gil Cone,
Hmm.
played for the Washington Senators. The reason I want that card, and I bid on it on eBay a little while back and didn't get it, but the reason I'm looking for that card is because, like I said, everything's got a story. And Gil Cone, he's passed, but years ago, um, he gave myself and a friend of mine tickets to the Masters. And I got to spend the night up at his house, and him and his wife, cooked for us and took care of us. And we went to the Masters on Saturday and then came back to his house that evening, delivered the tickets because he needed that badge to go back on Sunday. And so I have that little story. So I collect a lot of Gil Cone cards just because of that. Um, and then we'll talk about some of the other ones a little bit later, especially all those tops.
Red Man. Quick aside on Red Man. That's one of my favorite sets. So I gotta
Mm.
mention this. So those, do you know what the tabs could be collected for and sent off for?
I have no idea.
Okay, so if you look at the back of a red man, you
Mhm.
can read this information. But basically, you were supposed to collect 50 of the little tabs, and their big thing was like, Red Man, these cards for you and your boys, right?
Mm.
And if you collected 50 of the tabs, you could send them to the Red Man Company, and you could pick any of the existing major league teams at the time in exchange for a kid's cap, so a kid's hat,
Mm.
right? So I have one of the pamphlets that you would need to like fill out to send your 50 tabs in with. It's got Johnny Mize on it. It's very colorful. I'm not at my house, or I'd show you.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
cool.
so that you would fill out and use to send it in for. I have one of the Red Men caps you could send in for. I have the Milwaukee Braves one, and it is in pristine condition, which is
Oh, wow.
shocking considering it was like a kid's hat. You know,
Hmm.
they got worn and played with and destroyed and all the things. And then I have one more Red Man item that is unique. I have a 1955 Red Man sealed pack. So pack card, tobacco still in it, cello wrapping still on it, the way that it would have came.
That is
Uh,
awesome.
really, really cool. Really cool. It's
Uh,
you can see the card. They actually put it on the outside of the tobacco package, so you can see who it is.
mhm.
But it's Al Rosen. So not a Hall of Famer, but a star, a guy that made
Yeah.
all games and that kind of thing.
Well, that is fantastic. Well, I thought that when I asked that question, I would get like one or two cards, but I got 20 some thousand, right?
Right.
That is unbelievable. I collect a few things, not quite that extensive by any means. I collect a lot of Georgia football stuff because I went to Georgia. Like I said, everything's got a story, you know. I
Hmm.
collect the Gil Cones that I mentioned. I collect Alec Thomas cards. He's current right now. He
Yeah.
just played with the Diamondbacks, but just got traded to the Dodgers not too long ago. I think he's in their minor league system right now. Um, I know his parents, and he grew up with my kids a little bit too, so around that same age, which is kind of cool. Um, and then there's probably a few others that I collect. Steve Garvey was always one of my favorite Dodgers. Um, I didn't really get into the Braves until probably I was in high school or college. I went to the University of Georgia, so of course everybody was pulling for the Braves then. Had a he wasn't really a classmate. He was a little bit younger than me. Kevin Millwood pitched for the Braves.
Yeah.
So I collect Kevin Millwood cards. Actually, a funny story is I found a guy on eBay who had four Kevin Millwood graded cards. They were back-to-back years and they were all tens. And I messaged him after I bought them, and I said, "Can I just ask you a question? Why in the world do you have Kevin Millwood cards that are all graded?" And he said they were just in a collection that he got.
Huh.
So I said, "Well, I'm the one who wants them." So, and got to see Kevin a few years back and stuff. So I have those cards and have a bunch of them, but everything, of course, has a story. And I know with you, you're trying to build those stories with
Mhm.
these collections. So I think that's pretty awesome. Well, today has been a great interview. I have enjoyed learning all of this and every little bit of it, Jake. Final question. Do you have any tips or comments for anybody kind of wanting to get into the industry? Or maybe not in the industry, but maybe on the collector side. I know one obviously is the spreadsheet. You know, I keep a spreadsheet, I keep data on all of my purchases and my, because I run it as a business too, you
Mhm.
know. But tell me what you would suggest there.
Yeah, being organized in the spreadsheet is huge. That's a big one. But I think that I think it applies to the collector and the dealer side. I'll address it as a collector first. So like the idea of collect what you like, right? Y- You know, so somebody listening out there, they may be like Kevin Millwood,
Hmm.
Gil Cohen, Tar Heel basketball, like who cares, right? And that's okay, right? You don't have to collect what I collect or what Matt collects. You don't need a spreadsheet of 20,000 items if you don't want 20,000 items. Collect what you like, what means something to you, what can tell that story for you, right? Uh, I look at my personal collection as I want to build a collection that's a museum that tells the history of the game and of collecting. Like that's
Hmm.
the way I look at mine in that nutshell, right? So collect what you like. But from an industry standpoint, a rule that I try and approach it with is I don't want to buy anything from my inventory that I would be upset that I get stuck with it.
Hmm.
I don't want to buy anything that I would be upset if I got stuck with it. Like that prevents so much potential resentment, anger, burnout,
Hmm.
frustration. Like I buy stuff and I'm like, dude, this is really cool vintage stuff. Like Hank Aaron's and Willie Mays and or even guys that I like that aren't as big, like Spawn or Negro or whatever. If I get stuck with it or it's in my case for a long time, so what? Like I like that stuff.
Hmm.
So like worst case scenario, I can't sell it. Well, now it's mine, right? As opposed to if I bought the next hot prospect, whatever, like, and nothing wrong against this player. I'm just going to use this as an example. But like Nick Kurtz,
Hmm.
right? He's setting the world on fire,
Yeah.
for the A's, and he's really good right now and all that. Me personally, I could care less about Nick Kurtz, And if he flames out next week, am I still going to care about Nick Kurtz? For me, the answer is no. So like I don't buy that stuff to resell even because I don't want to be stuck with Nick Kurtz stuff. Like I don't
Yes,
have any interest
I
in that.
understand.
So I think that collect what you like, but also deal in inventory that you like. It's really worked for me on both ends.
Gotcha. I gotcha. This is one of the sets that I like. What is this? Is this 52? 52 Bowman?
52 Bowman, Larry Doby right there. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I like those. I have several of those. I've been doing a lot with 72 tops lately too.
Hmm.
I've got a lot of people asking for 72 tops. So, um, any particular favorite player?
So like player that was like my favorite player my whole life was Chipper Jones. He's my favorite.
Oh, I got you. That's good.
And I saw his Hall of Fame induction speech. I was there in Cooperstown. That was cool.
Awesome. Awesome.
He's the reason I wore 10. I'm left-handed. He was the first guy I remember being on TV hitting left-handed, that kind of thing. Um, Past that, I love Ty Cobb.
Mm,
I love Ricky Henderson. I met Ricky Henderson. He was awesome.
okay.
Ricky was great. I've got a great Ricky story, but
Oh,
um, so guys like that, I like Ruth. Back to my paternal grandmother, my nanny. She
hmm.
had three movies in her house. She had Remember the Titans, which is my brother's favorite movie. She had The Sandlot, which is my favorite movie, and she had a movie called Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which we were not allowed to watch as children. Uh, so Sandlot had a lot of influence on me. I collect Sandlot stuff, but it was also the reason I always wanted a Ruth autograph because if you're familiar with the Sandlot, the whole thing with Babe Ruth and the
Yep.
ball and all that. So right before I got married 9 years ago, I bought one. I have a Ruth autograph.
Oh,
Um,
oh.
but like that inspired that like the Sandlot from my childhood, that's the whole reason I loved Ruth and the history of the game and all of that and collecting Sandlot stuff.
Hmm.
Um so those are some of the players I probably like the most, at least on the baseball side.
I saw what did I see the other day? Some autograph show coming up. A guy from the Sandlot's going to be there,
Mhm.
and I can't remember where that was. Might have been in Tennessee or something. Well, anyway, Jake, I appreciate it. Today
Yeah.
has been fantastic. I've enjoyed every bit of this today. I've enjoyed learning a lot of different things about your collection and the hobby as a whole. And guys, if you like the content on this channel, please make sure you subscribe to it. There'll be more interviews like this coming up in the future. And I'm gonna let Jake have the last word today. What do you want to tell the audience today?
Yes, subscribe and like Matt's stuff. Go check him out if you're local. You'll see him at a lot of shows. And then if you want to find me, I'm on YouTube at Legends Never Die. I am on Instagram, Legends Never Die Collection. Would love to connect to you, reach out to me, talk. I love doing stuff like this with Matt and other collectors. Uh, but if it's okay with you, Matt, and I think it will be, I close my videos with a certain phrase. Would it be all right if I use that?
Sure, definitely.
Okay. Keep collecting and God bless.
Yes, fantastic. And all your information is going to be down in the description anyway. So that way you can just click on it and go straight over to Jake. Jake, I appreciate you today. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll do some more of these guys, and maybe we'll have Jake back on a little bit later and stuff.
Good luck to you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye. Hope you have a good day. Bye bye.